Well, good evening, listening audience. I understand that we're now on the air, and it's a great Tuesday afternoon. I want to start this show off by saying a word of prayer, just a moment of silence, and hoping that our good friend and the legendary Big Daddy Jesse Sutton gets well and is doing fine. He has meant so much to this community. He's a stalwart in this community. Just don't know how anybody in the community would get along without him. So get well, Jesse, and let's get back to work. I remember that he told me once that this guy was getting up on his wagon and he got ready to get the mule to pull the wagon, and when he took the reins, he said, "Get up, John, and get up, Jake." And the people looked at him and said, "Well, why are you saying get up, John, and get up, Jake, when there's only one mule hooked to the wagon?" He said, "Well, because if he thought he was by himself, he wouldn't believe he could do it." And so I've taken that little tidbit and used it to my own benefit. Every day, every morning, when I say, "Let's go, Socrates, let's go, helper," and I realize that it's just me, but if I thought I was by myself, I couldn't do it. So it's been people like Jesse and others that have inspired and encouraged all of us to be the very best that we can be. You know, last week we spent a lot of time talking about finance and ways that small business people can improve their business. And the information from Jim Griffin with Griffin's Financial Services was tremendous. And I know that there were some people out there in business that it was helpful to, because it was helpful to me. And you never quit learning in business. You will see something new every day. And every time you think you got it figured out, things change. So you gotta grow, and you gotta learn, you gotta stay plugged in, and you gotta stay in touch with those that mean you good. You gotta stay in touch with your refueling stations. So when you're weary and you're tired and you're alone, that you know that you can go somewhere and be refueled and be encouraged to fight this good fight of being a small black business owner in the poorest state in the country. What a challenge. You got to be up to it, and you got to get some help. So I always say to my business people out there that are listening that your team, since you can't afford to hire all of the staff members that's required to run a business, your team has to come to you based upon the service that you've given in the community. And I urge you to put on your team as a number one cabinet member your minister, so that he can pray for you and he can tell you how good his mercy and his grace is, and how he can assure you that this is the year of restoration, where you're going to take back all of the things that the devil stole from you. The minister reminds you of that. The minister says that he that is in you is greater than all outside agents. The minister tells you that. That allows you to get up and take on an insurmountable challenge and task. So you're prepared when the unnecessary obstacles are put in your path by those who look like you. One of the things that is most discouraging is the way we treat one another. How we hate to see one gain a toehold, enjoy some success in the world of business, while we try to tear people down instead of building them up. And so, this show has got to tell the truth about our situation, but it's also got to remind our listening audience and our business listeners that the solution and the sacrifice is in the same arena. Meaning that our solution to all of our problems lie within the grasp and in the strongholds of our ministers and our black elected officials. They have the power and they have the mass and the numbers to make a tremendous difference in this community. Hold on a second. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, go ahead.
Caller, we're trying to get the phone to work properly. So I think we just need to get volume.
Hold on one moment, okay? We're having a little bit of difficulties. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me, caller?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm not going to hold you long, sir. I just wanted to ask you, do you have any maybe advice for someone or area a person that would go if they were trying to start a small business?
Yes, I do.
And before you say it, I would just like to alleviate what you was talking about. That is the main problem. We, a lot of times, black folks, we don't stand up for each other. And it's a matter of ego. If you look at a lot of other races, no matter what kind of disagreement they might have, they will stick together and stand up. But our ego plays a very detrimental part in our business performance because we don't have nobody standing with us. It's all jealousy. The people that you think will stand won't because they're scared that you might run off and leave them. And it's not a matter of running off and leave them. It's trying to get something started to help everybody. I will hang up and listen to you and let you answer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your call. I couldn't have said it any better. You see exactly what's going on, and you know that that's the problem, and we got to find a way to solve it. To your first part of your question, though, in terms of when one ought to start a business, it's critical in our community that the first thing we do is identify a customer. Meaning that you almost have to be profitable from day one. So identify the customer, who you're going to sell your goods and services to, before you go into business. It's critically important. So the academic side of the house says that you got 3 to 5 years to be successful. The minority experience says that you got 3 to 5 months before you have to close your doors. So identify your customer, and in many cases try and pre-sale your products for goods and services before they're even delivered. But thank you, Carla. We're going to work with this black ego problem. We're going to put some things out where everybody can see it. And we're going to do this not so that we can, shame anyone, but we're going to do it so that everybody can do a self-analysis and a self-check on what role they're playing in solving these problems. So I said the challenge is to get the black elected officials to understand the roles that they play. Hold on a minute, Colin. Colin, you're on the air.
Good evening, Socrates.
Good evening.
All right, I just want to ask you a question real quick. Do you plan to sit down with the mayor and the new administration and to offer him some input on as to how he can move this city forward? I see one thing they're doing is they tearing down a lot of these old houses that should have been torn down a long time ago,
Yeah, Carla, I absolutely plan to do that, to speak with Antoff. I'm hopeful that, he can be the best mayor this city has ever had. And I'm impressed with him in the remarks that he's made. I'm impressed with the young man when he says that I'm the mayor of all people, whether you voted for me or not, is a break in the way black folk normally talk. And when he says that he's inclusive, that's strong. Now, that is the kind of mayor and the kind of leader that we need that can get beyond petty politics. So I'm impressed with him.
Okay, let me ask this one other thing.
Yeah.
I saw him on TV. It was some guy was introducing some type of pothole procedure that he can fix these potholes and he guarantee it and everything. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there are all kinds of new technology and new material that we can use to repair potholes. And I think those of us in the industry that run construction companies have great ideas on how to do that and how to take advantage, combine technology along with new materials that are being discovered every day to repair some of these potholes. You might see some potholes that are filled with a gray looking substance, which is different from the traditional asphalt. And so it's supposed to be warranted to last a whole lot longer and be repellent to waters. The problem with filling a pothole is the water gets underneath the asphalt and removes it from the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So if your water can't get underneath it, then the seal on it will last a lot longer.
You got 2 more calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Cole. I appreciate you now.
All right.
All right. So, yeah, we're going to work with the mayor. I had a great meeting with him at the next level during the campaign when we had a chance to sit down and talk. Everybody knows that in the first run for mayor in that administration, you know, I was completely, solidly behind Tony Yarborough. And so naturally, you know, everybody would assume that at the second go around that my loyalty would have still been there. But it wasn't. I expressed to Antar that I was not going to work at all against him and that I was going to certainly be very quiet in this last election. And the reason I had to do that is because black folk, especially that city council, took a serious challenge to our being able to survive in this city. And so you would have Councilman Hendricks, for example, that would ask contractors if Garrett Enterprises was part of the contract in any way. And so he crafted the subcontractor exposure list so that he could see primarily was Garrett anywhere. And why, I don't know. And absolutely don't know why. Because we never did anything but support the young man when he was running for the alderman seat down in Ward 6. But it doesn't make any difference why. People just do what they do. And so we know we have to find a way to bring our elected officials to start talking about things in the right manner.
Got a call.
Caller, you're on the air. You're on the air, caller. Go ahead.
Evening, Socrates. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I was just listening and enjoying your conversation. I followed your career as a businessman in Jackson, and also the guy before you, the one that built the federal building on the corner of Rose and Mid Street. What was his name?
Cornelius Turner.
Exactly, you know, and getting back to yourself there for one moment, when you brought up the math thing, you know, the numbers don't lie, you know. And when I look at the contracting, the business here in Jackson, and, you know, your organization, you're one of the largest in Jackson that can handle certain jobs, you know, and I just, look at that, and we should try to fill you up. And the reason I mention that, I look at the Fordyce family, they build bridges for the state. And I know that they still do contracting for the city. They're a construction company, they're still at the trough feeding, but you know how they act. But anyway, to build up our own, in yourself and organization like you and the prior guy that I mentioned, and like I say, the numbers don't lie, and that's what we need to capitalize on to advance ourselves. And one more thing about, the numbers, and that carry over to everything. Numbers don't lie. We got tried and true methods that work. We got our own paper, we've got the numbers, like you say, and we know the ones that don't work, and that goes to our public schools too. We got Clinton, we got Madison, they got A schools here in Jackson, we got D and F schools. The numbers don't lie. That's Madison and Clinton, they got a proven method to educate their kids
Why can't he work with ours?
I'm telling
I'll talk to you later.
you. Thank you, Carla. I don't know, but we got to fix it. We got to fix it. And we got to understand the responsibility because, as I was saying earlier, the elected official has to understand that their job is to create policies that enhance the opportunities and fix the environment for those that have been traditionally left behind. And we expect to have that. Now, if I'm a member of the legislature and I listen to talk shows, and we got to start talking about, as a member of the legislature, what laws, what policies did I get put in place that has improved the quality of life for my people? How many more contracts are going to black businesses because of the legislation that I introduced this session? Hold on a minute. Carla, you're on the air.
Hey, well, good evening, Mr. Garrett. I want to thank you for your work and service in the community as well as your business. My question to you for some young folks starting out in business, how important is it to find someone you can trust and work with so that you're not trying to do it by yourself, but you got 2 or 3 trusted people that you can work with who's really there for you and you work together. And maybe not even in the same business, but you got people who can help you to really work through things. How important is it and how do you go about putting that together?
It's critically important that you build a team. And, I started on that team, then I got sidetracked, but you got to build that team. And you can't really hire all of those people in the beginning. So trust is a tremendous factor. And normally we start out with family and relatives that assist us in the business because we can trust them. And so it's critically important. But you know what, Carla, though? You bring your family into the business because you can trust them and they won't steal you blind, but they don't have the skill set to take the business to the level that it can be successful. Mm-hmm. And so now you boxed in again. I got a family member here which I cannot replace because if I do, I can't go to the family reunion next year. And so you get boxed, but that's a building that infrastructure and that staff is so critical and so hard to do until you got to stay with it. I would stay inside of my church and I would look for people with skill sets that have retired that I can ask to come and help me for a while, that have the skill set and have enough energy to keep my books, to be my receptionist, to answer my telephones, to do things of that nature, which allows me to focus on the core aspect of my business, which in our case, the core aspect of our business is selling, marketing. And we have to sell our goods and service. But it's a tough one. But it's the one we got to fight our way through, Carla.
And if you have time, you have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that the main function of a business is to find a paying customer. That's right. And a lot of people are under the belief that you get a loan and open your business up and everything is smooth sailing.
No.
But talk to us a little bit about how most folks, if not the vast majority of people, really start out selling something and getting paid and then doing it over and over again until they build it up. It's hard to see it from the beginning, where Walmart and Google started from, but how do you focus on getting that customer? What are some things a starting person can do to really begin to early on get paying customers without having to seek funding or financing?
Right. Carla, this is an age-old question and it's an age-old challenge. And that's why in the early days, we had these apprentice programs. So we'd go get a job and we'd work for somebody in the field that we wanted to go into. And we need those apprentice programs back. If you want to run a print shop, you need to get a job at a print shop. And you need to work there 5 to 6 years, understanding that business. And you need to do that. If you want to open a restaurant, the biggest challenge that we had at the next level is that none of us had restaurant experience. We had all kinds of business experience and expertise, and my partner, Charles Pickett over there, is probably one of the best entertainment guys in the country. But running a restaurant was different. And so when we looked up all of the labor costs and the cost of food and the waste and the pilferage was all out of whack, all out of line real quick. Well, being an experienced business person, you know to slow that down. You know not to try to outrun it. You just got to shut that down and fix the model and bring it back. Hold on a minute, caller.
Okay, no.
And so, you know, it's a tough question, but we got to work in the environment first. And then we'll identify a customer too. When you're working in there, you see who the customers are. And you can get inside of that and start looking for you one, and you just need one to get going, and identify that customer and open your business.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Those are tremendous questions and tremendous challenges to start up businesses. And it's tremendous challenges to businesses who want to move to the next level. Also, understanding that market is critical. Hold on a second. Carl, you're on the air.
No, I finished. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thank you now. Understanding that market is critical. So we're going to have to work with that a bit. And I was trying to get another call that's coming in. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I'm going to keep beating this dead horse. I've been beating it for 30 years. The educational problem in Jackson, Mississippi, is first of all, I think we need to start from the top down. We have too many high schools. You see, people talk about Madison, Rankin County. But we only had 3 high schools, and the other 4 schools were trades that would address the problem that you just got to see. Because a child is not going to learn no more than what he want to learn. They know by the 7th grade whether that child is going to be a scholar or not. Now, it would also save a lot of money. And another thing people don't look at, you talk about Madison schools and Clinton, they don't have APAC. They don't have IB. They don't even have 64 dual credit hours or 30 dual credit hours that our school have. But all that stuff goes unnoticed. And when you mention something like conditioning school, restructuring the educational system, a lot of people don't want to hear it, especially the powers that be don't want to see us advance. Because if you look at the graduation, at the total number of graduation from all the 7 high schools, if you condense it down to 3 high schools, like I said, you'll have about 450 graduates from each, about 1,200 people graduating every year, at least. And if you add them all up together, that's not all you have to graduate now, anyway. So if you condense the other schools down, you have a school north, south, and central, Merle, Chimp Hill, and Forest Hill, and have the other schools as both technical trades, then you would not only with the workforce increase, you would have a lot of jobs back here because you have work-ready people. And we are in a medical bubble, you would say. We got 4 major hospitals here, and the VA hospital is the only VA hospital for miles around for a lot of people. So a lot of people come from Tennessee, Alabama, all over to go to that VA right there. And nowadays, you could be a medical assistant, dental assistant, CNA, all that stuff we can have come straight out of high school. And I wish somebody was listening, because this is what needs to be done here in Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, caller. And as you said, just keep beating the horse. You got to work on it. I've been working on it for 40 years too. We just got to stay on the battleground. We got to keep saying it. We got to keep saying it until somebody picks up the reins. And I guarantee you that day is coming. Hold on a minute. Caller, you're on the air.
Socrates.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
I just left the show out there at Sports Trap, and I'm switching gears now, and I want to commend you on a great show. I was telling your daughter that a moment ago that, man, you speak from the hip. You ain't got no script. You ain't got no guide, no outline. You're speaking from the heart. But I think it'd be good, Socrates, if you would let the people know that you're a bootstrap businessman and where you come from. I know you don't want to talk much about your background, but let folks know you came from humble beginnings and you're a bootstrap businessman. and you were always one of the biggest African American businessmen in this city. So I think you ought to let us know.
Well, I will do that if you think it would be helpful. I don't mind sharing. I certainly.
Let me tell you,
yeah,
let me tell you why I think it'd be helpful. So I think it'd be helpful because some of the young folks may be listening out there and maybe discouraged, and maybe you can give them some encouragement by knowing where you come from.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I want to address the first caller first, but we'll talk later. He talked about school districts and the number of schools and what they ought to be teaching. I tell you, we're going to either fix the problem or we're going to lose control over the entire district. We build little kingdoms and they don't serve us well, and we had a good model in building them because the state of Mississippi created 8 major universities in the state. 8. And combined, they have fewer students than they have at UCLA. Now think about that. We have 8 college presidents and 8 of everything you have to run an institution. And it was created because at the time, blacks couldn't go to white schools, and they kept building schools near the plantation, so when you did go to a black school, you'd hurry home and be able to farm. Then after Cotton was no longer king, we left with 8 universities and no way possible to consolidate. You can't consolidate in the white community, and you can't consolidate in the black community because of our history and our unfair treatment of one another. We're not able to get over it. So you got Valley State and Delta State sitting there on top of each other. Enough of that, but we're going to have to figure this thing out, and true leadership is going to have to step up at some point in time. So Carla, just keep working it. Just keep preaching. Keep talking about, what it needs to look like, how it needs to perform, and how we need to support a black business class. Because at the end of the day, everything is about the economy. I say all the time that the love of money is not the greatest root of all evil. It's the lack of money that causes young boys to get into trouble. The ego associated with wanting to have nice things, a pair of gym shoes that you can't have, or no car to drive, and everybody else is passing by driving a car. No money for lunch. No money for the movies. So yeah, he ends up learning how to fight, learning how to commit crimes, but he sees no other way out. A black business class will give an opportunity to black boys. Nobody else is going to hire them but black folk. And our politicians have to understand that the number one crime prevention strategy is jobs for our youth. If you don't get that, then why are you in the leadership position? Hold on. Carla, you're on the air.
Yes, this is Sheriff, man. I just hear you just said something about the love of money is not the root of all evil.
Right.
You said the lack of money. I don't agree with that. I think that's in contrary to the truth.
Why?
There was a lot of times that when I was growing up, I didn't have no money, but I didn't go out and do what you just said.
What did you do?
You said go out. I got a job. I started out working with people.
When you got the job.
Let me finish. $5 a day, and I worked and I saved that money,
And my brothers and sisters did the same thing. You're giving some terrible advice to young people when you say that they're going to commit crime.
I didn't give them any advice to them to go commit
you're
crime.
doing something wrong because I'm sitting there listening to you, and that's insulting me as a black person.
What are you talking about, Cap?
I'm talking about what you just said. The lack of money is the root of all these. That's not true.
When a man can't feed his family, what is he supposed to do, Cap?
He's supposed to go out and do the right thing and find something so he can feed his family. I get somebody saying to help out so he can do better. Not to go out there and commit a crime. That's what he should do.
Well, I
when
certainly...
he gets on his feet, he should do the right thing by tearing his hand back. And if he's working for somebody, he shouldn't steal or take from him. He should be a man. You trying to tell a person to be a criminal in order to be successful.
No, I'm not trying to tell anybody that.
Well, you should change your tune because to me, that's insulting the black people.
Well, I'm sorry that you interpret it that way.
Well, I don't care what you're sorry about. You should understand what you said. You're a grown man and you should know better. You in business. I've heard your name before.
What did I say?
And I've heard your name around the city and the contracts you've been getting and things you're doing. So you should know better because you're in business. Don't encourage people to do wrong because they don't have what you have. Encourage them to do better by doing the right thing so they can get what you got, get where you been.
Well, I certainly want them to be successful.
Well, that's what you should talk about. And this other talk you got, you sound like Donald Trump.
Okay. Thank you, Captain. We'll talk with you
thank
later.
you.
Bye. Sometimes, listeners interpret or hear things differently than my intent was for them to understand. And so I won't try and get back into that. But let me finish on where I was going. And so what we have to do is we got to find a way to grow this black business class. It's tremendously important that we do that. And the two folk groups of people that can be the biggest assistance to that is our black elected officials and our ministers. The economics of our church represents a tremendous opportunity for startup businesses. And sometimes serious businesses that have operated for a long time find that to be fertile ground for marketing their products for goods and services. And so our ministers need to understand the role that they play. And I want to compliment those that are doing that. When I pulled up on New Horizons parking lot last Sunday, saw the parking lot had been completely repaved and striped. I was proud that a black man was able to do that. There was no Superior, there was no APAC, there was no white folk involved at all in the repaving and striping of that parking lot. We have that kind of talent amongst us. And so our ministers have to seek it out and provide an opportunity for them. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes we pay a little bit more to develop our people, because we won't pay one way or another. So we have to develop the skill sets by hiring and training people that have not had the opportunity before, and so they do things wrong sometimes. And that increases the cost of doing business. And so, but ultimately, providing those jobs and opportunities for our families improves the quality of life for everyone. It increases the tithes to the church. It increases food and clothing and shelter to the church members. We have to learn how to keep those dollars in our community. Now, I was impressed with Trump when he went out and said that this is Buy America Day. I believe in Buy America. But I want us in the African American community to buy Jackson and then buy from black folk in Jackson and stand on that with pride and forcefulness and say that those tax dollars have to stay in our communities. Now, each month, well, each year, as I've said often, over $1 billion moves through our economic engines that I've identified. The county, the city, the school system, and the airport. Over $1 billion. And I can't see why we don't have a stronger business class than we do. Hold on a second. Carla, you're on the air.
Mr. Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm not going to hold you long, sir, but I just wanted to say I've been listening to you, and I've understood exactly what you're saying. I believe what you were saying was this. When the lack of money, and it's not about committing a crime, it will make you maybe cut corners, not criminal. I'm not saying criminal, but people say money is the root of all evil. That's not true. It's your mindset. It's your mindset. I've yet to see $100 bill get up and hit somebody in the head. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
You see what I'm saying? What it is, what the problem is, the overall problem is black folks' ego. For anything, I don't care if you're building a football team, basketball team, the main problem is one thing: communication. I don't care what talent you got on what. If you is not willing to listen and take instructions and listen very carefully and have a mindset to do right, you will not get anywhere. You will not get anywhere selling lollipops, honey balls, or whatever. It's all in your mindset. I say again, I've yet to see $100 bill gift and not somebody in the head.
No, you won't ever see it. You won't ever see it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Carla. Poverty, people. Poverty is the biggest problem we have. Poverty. And we got to talk about that, because it's the genesis of everything that's bad. Now, growing up as a boy, we didn't have the kind of poverty that we see in the communities today. Because as a boy, I could run for days on our own land, fish, hunt, grow our own food in the garden. We didn't have a need to have money as much as we had the need today. There are no gardens today. There's nowhere for kids to run. That's why we always talking about they got ADD. They don't have. You can't raise a child. You can't raise a young boy on a lot. He's got nowhere to run off that energy. He's got nowhere to explore. So poverty is the #1 challenge that we have, and we must find ways to eradicate it. Now, everybody knows that. The median income in the state of Mississippi for black folks is less than $15,000 for a family of 4. You know you can't raise a family on that. And so that's why as black businesses, part of our responsibility is to pay living wages, is to pay good salaries, to train and develop and hire people on the reentry programs that have fallen off the wagon. Give them a second and third and fourth chance. The business community is going to do that. The black business community is going to do that. That's not going to happen in the white business community. You're not going to walk in there and talking about, you know, that you're just getting out of parchment and you need a job. And it's a vicious cycle. I hire so many people that are on parole until 10% of my daily time, my employee is absent because he's got to go see his parole officer. And then he's got to take the parole officer some money. And if he don't have the money to pay the parole officer, then he got to go back to jail. It's a vicious cycle out here. And we need strong men that'll stand up and speak the truth about what's going on in our community, because we're losing it. Our kids are not going to have the same quality of life that we enjoy. They won't have it. And so, I want to thank everyone in the listening audience. This show is brought to you by the Next Level Experience. Our focus there is to bring quality entertainment. I want to shout out to my partner Charles Pickett and the gang over at the Next Level. Doing a wonderful job, outstanding job of trying to revitalize South Jackson, trying to bring things to Mississippi that's never been seen before. I had the opportunity to be at Next Level on last Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night, it might have been Friday. I get my nights confused, but I was at a taping of the Kevin Hart show in Jackson, Mississippi. Right there at the Next Level. Thank you, Charles, for bringing that event to Jackson. It showed to the rest of the world that we in Mississippi are capable of providing quality space, an environment that's comfortable and safe with ample parking and lighting. And that show was going to be aired on TV in September, I believe. There were 4, November, and there were 4 outstanding comedians from around the state that came out and performed, and they all did an excellent job. And I hope their career takes off, and I wish nothing but the very best for them and their success. And I want them to remember that the Next Level played a part in them getting there. And that space is provided to you by the black business community. It's been a great show. We look forward to talking to you again next Tuesday. Everybody stay strong, stay focused, stay committed, and stay in the game. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. We also like to mention that taking place this weekend, July 21st at the Next Level at the